In my new student dialogue at Clemson that we had to do for the CU 1000, the communication was different. It wasn't as smooth as I would like. There was a lot of quietness, and no one really felt as comfortable as they should have to get up and share how they felt on the topic. And we talked about equality versus equity and like how people are, they might be equal, but the equity isn't the same. And we talked about the difference between equality and equity. Um, People leading the new student dialogue were, I don't know, they seemed like they tried to force it too much. Didn't really feel like a safe environment they kept. Like when someone would look at their phone, they would get mad at them and tell them put their phone up, which I understand is to make the dialogue better, but all it did was make people scared, and no one wanted to talk about anything. People sat there most of the time, and they kind of were forced to interject. They didn't really feel like they needed to, and it usually came down to being like two or three people that ended up talking about whatever we were talking about. There's two or three people that would share all the time, and most of us would just listen. The new student dialogue didn't really understand why we had to do it. It just seems like we go there and they talk to us, and we are forced to talk for 2 hours on something that honestly probably none of us care about, which is maybe not a good thing, but honestly, no incoming freshman really cares about equality versus equity at this point. I know we should, but we don't. Um, I know my participation was probably not as supportive as they would have liked me to be. I didn't really interact all that much, and I honestly just like sat there a good amount of the time and listened to either the instructors try to get us to interact or to those three or four people that did it all the time. We basically did activities such as like you're in my shoe and I'm in your shoes, and we did it to like so how like a shoe and a shoe are equal, but the equity is not the same because it doesn't fit us. Like your shoe may be better for you than it is for me. So that was the equity part of it, and then we also talked about different things like we basically just told stories about how we thought equality versus equity like changed in different situations, and there was definitely like more active and reserved voices in our dialogue. The active voices would always stand up and share their story or share their explanation to it, and then the reserved kids would sit back and nod their head and agree maybe with whatever the active voices were saying. It wasn't a very good learning environment. People felt like they were scared to talk to the group, while others just were comfortable and didn't hesitate to speak. I think that the reason that New Student Dialogue is a component of the CU 1000 like class is because they try to get us to interact and have dialogue with each other as new students and freshmen. They're trying to bring us closer together, but honestly, I didn't think it was a useful tool to my experience at Clemson University. It just seemed like something I needed to do. It wasn't a huge success for me. I don't feel changed by it. I don't feel like I've gained any better dialogue skills from it. A lot of it was just honestly that we had to go, and then that we were there. And I don't think our group came close to achieving true dialogue. It was so forced, and two or three people were speaking the whole time. It wasn't like an open conversation between the whole class. There was a couple of us that just sat there while most people just were talking the whole time. And so it was awkward most of the time, but it wasn't a big deal. I just didn't think it was a necessary part of the college experience, and I don't think it was an effective tool to teach us how to have true dialogue or how to interact with one another. I don't know. I probably wouldn't recommend using it again, the dialogue was never really achieved, and there were only a few people that actually talked while the others just sat back and listened and did it just because they had to be there. And yeah, that's it.